Hi folks, welcome back to We the People. This is about our fifth or sixth taping of the show. I'm your guest, Dave Gallus, and we've had some pretty interesting people on the show so far. We've had Yvette Hurrell, who was running for U.S. Congressional District 2. We've had John Foreman, who is running for House District 52. And we always have one candidate that's running every show, and that's me. I'm Dave Gallus. I'm running for New Mexico State Senate in District 37. And to my Hispanic friends, soy un candidato para el Senado del Estado de Nuevo Mexico, Distrito 37. So, I'm still working on my Spanish, folks. So anyway, we'll have many more candidates and experts in the field of all the problems that we face in New Mexico. Please let me know if you want any special guest on, if you would like to be a guest yourself, if you have any questions that I can bring up on our candidates or any of our guests that's been there, any comments at all. Just try to keep it civil, okay? There's a number on your screen that you can contact me and let me know, am I doing good? Am I doing bad? Would you like to have certain guests on? It's 856-952-7343. Give me a call and let me know. And come on the show. It's a lot of fun. Okay, today's show I'm going to talk about law and order. Now, I consider myself an expert in law and order since I was a policeman for 25 years in a big city, Philadelphia. And we see what's going on in Minneapolis. And it's a sad situation. I mean, Mr. George Floyd died at the hands of a policeman. And it's still being processed as to what happened. If it turns out that the policeman, through his malice or through his negligence, brought about Mr. Floyd's death, he should be prosecuted, no doubt about it, to the full extent of the law. And it may be that he had past infractions, and I've heard that he may have had past infractions with the police department, with the community, with charges of brutality. I don't know. But if that's the case, then anybody that covered for that should also be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Now, I know the pain of losing someone close to you. My daughter, my youngest daughter, Dawn, died at 8 months now. She had a congenital heart disease that we didn't even know about at birth. She was born with Down syndrome. And once we figured out what that was, no big deal. We started working with that, had her in school. But she developed a cold that turned into pneumonia. They removed part of her lung. She went on a trachea, a feeding tube. It was just terrible. I can't imagine a family going through the loss of a loved one like Mr. George Floyd. Now, his family, through their frustration and their rage, even through that, they're calling for peace. They see what's going on they see what's going on around the world, but they see what's going on in Minneapolis. They see what's going on in Seattle, Washington, and they're calling for peace. Dr. Martin Luther King would be proud of their courage and their willingness to let justice be served and let the Justice Department handle it. Now, is it perfect? I don't know. But peaceful protest, I'm all for it. That's our First Amendment right. Peaceful protest, but not this violence that we see. So, you know, running for office, I think, is the reason why I was invited on KTAL, the radio show, the local radio show with Peter Goodman and Walt Rubel. And they never did mention that I was running for office, but I kind of think they had me in as all the policemen they could call in for professional advice or what I think about the situation that's happening throughout our country. They called me. So, and they asked me what I thought about the rioting that was going on. Was it a grassroots? I said, absolutely not. I said, I believe that the protesting is reasonable, absolutely reasonable. It should be. When you have a gripe, you need to bring it out. You need to let the government know you're not happy with what's going on. But this violence, grassroots, I said that I believe it was this created through the progressive socialist radical wing of the formerly reasonable Democratic Party has taken over that party. And I believe that the media is also involved in this to exacerbate, to increase the violence. And I also said that I believe it's financed. It has to be financed. And they asked me who, and I said George Soros is a possibility. And they all but laughed me off, said, nah, it's ridiculous. Well, that's my opinion, and I believe any reasonable person will come to the same conclusion with enough information. And I would say that you need to find your information on sources, not biased sources. So I'm thinking if you want propaganda, left-leaning propaganda, you go to MSNBC, you go to CNN. If you want opinion with some news, you go to Fox News, and that's on the right. But if you want mostly news with very little opinion, you go to One American News Network or Newsmax. That's where I get my news, but I also compare it to what I listen to on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. So if you get a well-rounded input from different sources, you have a better idea of what the truth may be. So anyway, at one point I was asked, or well, I wasn't asked, but KTAL was looking for people to be broadcasters. Now, I had experience in a podcast, so I wrote up my application, I submitted it, but after constantly asking them how was it going, I finally was told I wasn't accepted. And I said, well, could you tell me why I wasn't accepted so that maybe I can correct whatever my problems are so that I can be accepted? And I even talked to the top people at KTAL. I talked to Linda Hall, who's the Program Advisory Committee Chair. She said, well, I didn't have anything to do with that. Okay, no, I'm sorry. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And I also talked to Nan Rubin, and I asked her if she knew why I wasn't allowed to be on the show. Again, I was told, no, I don't have anything to do with the selection process. So, I can only assume that the idea that I'm a conservative, but I'm a reasonable conservative. I look for different points of view. But I can only assume that they didn't want me on that show. So, it'll be interesting to see what Walt and Peter Goodman will put out in an op-ed about my interview with them. Now, they said that it's archived, the conversation that we had. And that conversation, if you can't find it in the archive, I have it recorded, word for word. So, we'll see how close it comes. I doubt very much that it's going to come to what I was intending to say and what my true intentions were. Also, not to trash Peter Goodman, but I've been told that Peter Goodman has pictures of his heroes in his office at KTAL. You might want to ask him who his heroes are, and you might get to the bottom of what the progressive socialist movement is here in Doñana County and Las Cruces. And KTAL is supposed to be a public radio station, so they should have people from all ideologies. You see, my heroes are George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver, John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Ronald Reagan. They're my heroes, and I can explain why, but I think it's pretty obvious why. So, I have a lot of Democratic friends. I go to dialogues throughout the city and at the university and all, and one of the people that tries to unify us is Randy Harris, and he does a good job. He has dialogues that really we get to talking to each other. And it's interesting, one time when I was there, I'm usually the only conservative in the group. The one lady, after I spoke that I was a Trump supporter and I'm glad he was a president, and the people were ready to run for the doors. But after a couple weeks of us going back to this 12-week sessions, they got to understand who I was because they knew I was talking from the heart and I was talking from experience. So after about 3 weeks, a couple of the guys asked me if I wanted to go have a beer with them, and I thought, oh my gosh, they're going to try and beat me up. They didn't, but we had a good conversation. It got a little louder at the bar than it did we went to O'Brien's, I think it was, and got a little louder than we normally do at the university in the sociology department, but it was civil, and we really openly talked. And one thing that really made a difference to me was one of the ladies in the dialogue said, I come here and I listen to people thinking and saying the same thing I do. She said, but you challenge me to think differently. And I thought, wow, that's great. That's what I want. I want to be heard and I want to hear them. And I did. And I could feel their pain and their frustration, just like I can with George Foreman's family. I can't imagine what that must be like. George Foreman's family. George Foreman, I think we have a picture on the screen of George in a loving moment with a family member, I believe it was. probably a great guy. I heard that he's been through a lot, that he had issues with drugs, that he had issues with crime, things like that. But hey, who hasn't messed up in their life? And I look at that smiling face and I think there's a decent person there, a very decent person. And I can't imagine the pain that his family has gone through. And yet this family, I think we have another picture of his family actually calling for peace during the rioting. They want to let justice be told. So anyway, I would say to my Democratic friends, search your heart for the truth. And does it really align with your values? I understand I made a mistake and I called George Foreman, and it's George Floyd. Excuse me for that. When I was a policeman in Philadelphia, George Foreman was a heavyweight boxer, and he was a very nice guy, and he liked the police. We used to go to his gym on Broad Street at Glenwood Avenue. So, another good man, another very good man. So excuse me, it's George Floyd. That's what this is about, and his family, and helping his family heal. And they can heal through justice. See that justice is served. So I would say to my Democratic friends, does the Democratic Party of now follow your values? And is it the values of peace and unity, which it should be? I suggest that you go to news media where you can find that truth. Like I mentioned, OAN, One American News Network, Newsmax, you're going to find more truth. And listen to the CNN and MSNBC. Do you hear only hate and anger and frustration and pointing at the devil they have created? And the devil in this case would be Republicans and the president. I have 4 pages of documented evidence of what the president has done to help this country, and especially the black community. I mean, the First Step Act, unemployment in minority communities, bring business back. When I was a policeman in Philadelphia, I was 19 years old and I was in a black ghetto, and that was a real eye-opener. But what I saw was generational welfare. I saw young men that were drunk, high, shooting up sometimes. They were frustrated. There was a general malaise that went through that community because there were no jobs, or at least they couldn't find jobs. And if you don't have a job, how do you stand up and be respected at a family? How do you have a family? Although I will say that the men were quite active sexually because there was a lot of kids around, but they didn't have fathers in the home, and that's so important. So to me, I've seen the Democratic Party that controls the major cities throughout our country. They have major problems with race. They have major problems with homelessness, with unemployment. So I would say, take a look, to my Democratic friends, take a look, honestly take a look at the cities that are doing well in our country and the cities and the states that are not doing well in our country. And who's running the cities and the states? You figure that one out, but I think it's kind of obvious. To my independent friends, I mean, there's Tea Partyists, there's Constitutionalists, there's Libertarians, there's a lot of factions that I believe were broken off from the Republican Party because they're frustrated with the Republican Party because they are not standing up against what I see is a major threat through progressivism and socialism. Well, hold on, folks. We'll be back in a minute after a few commercials, and we'll continue this dialogue. Be right back.
Horizon Granite is here. We'll come to you to customize your kitchen and bathroom with beautiful countertops and cabinets. Find out more at horizongranite.com. Call us at 575-650-3180.
Horizon Granite is here.
It's here.
Make yourself a beautiful home.
Hi, I'm Ray Bamberg with Here on Earth. I would like to invite you for a free hearing evaluation to our office. We've been here in southern New Mexico for 34 years helping people hear better.
stormed beaches and freed countries. They've raised our flag and our hope. They've been called leathernecks. They've been called devil dogs. But above all, they're called Marines.
Hi folks, welcome back to We the People. I'm your host Dave Gallus, and today we're talking about the unrest in the country, specifically in Minneapolis and Washington after the death of George Floyd. It's a tough one. It really is. You know, I, as a policeman, I know you need law and order, but you also need justice. And if you don't feel like you're getting justice, you want to take it into your own hands. Now, I would say that there are some people that are lawless that are behind all this rioting and trouble that we're seeing. And I think it's an organized effort. It's well-funded. And I suggested it's well-funded by the George Soros Group. And he's got plenty of money to do it. And there's other millionaires out there, too, that want to see the unrest, that want to tear this country apart, that want to destroy this president. Now, the picture on your screen, that's Seattle, Washington. They've actually cordoned off, I think it's 6 or 7 blocks. They've closed it off. They've taken over a police station. This is anarchy. Is this really what people want? I don't think so. The people that are inside that community, they're not allowed in that community unless they show identification. Funny thing is, these radicals want to see identification, pictured identification, and yet we don't have picture ID for our voting. Something's wrong here, folks. So the point is, you need to elect the right people. If you don't elect the right people, you get anarchy. And there's a concerted effort to take away your freedoms through anarchy, the globalist, the progressive socialists that have taken over the Democratic Party. So I talked about my Democratic friends, and I just want you, and I have a lot of Democratic friends, I just don't understand how they can follow an ideology that is going crazy. To my independent friends, you've got independents, DTS, decline to state. You've got Tea Partyists. You've got constitutionalists. You've got all number of formerly, or they're conservative in their values, but they used to be part of a Republican Party. But now they're all faction because they're fed up with the Republican Party that doesn't stand up and fight. And I understand that because I think it was 2016, I saw how we lost all the races in Doñana County in New Mexico. And it's like, what the heck's going on here? So I'm a Christian, conservative, common sense, constitutionalist. So, okay, the only way to stop this progressive socialist movement is with the Republican Party. That's the only way you can do it right now. So I thought, what do? I get involved in the Republican Party and help change it. And I am part of that change. People are standing up and fighting, not with violence, but with words and logic and common sense. I've been going to county commissions meetings. I've been going to city council meetings, and I step up and tell them how I feel, and I call them out when I think they're doing wrong, and most of the time they are doing wrong. They're not listening to us. These are the people that we have elected. We only elect them if we're registered and vote. Now, there's voter fraud out there, there's no question about it, and that's being taken care of. We have lawyers that are actually looking into it. Not as Republicans, but as civilians, civic-minded people that want fair and honest elections. I don't want the Republicans to have an advantage. I don't want the Democrats to have an advantage. I want people to have choices. I want our legislators to respect you and me. So, how do we do that? We register, we vote. And if we're all registered and voted, that's fine. But we have neighbors, we have family members, we have co-workers, we have neighborhood people that are not registered to vote, and they don't realize how important their vote is. A single group of people. We've had elections in Las Cruces that have been decided by 8 votes. 8 votes. If people got out and voted their conscience and understood what the issues were, what the platforms were, who the people are they're voting for or not voting for, that's what you have to do. It's going to take effort on your part. Now me, I'm running for New Mexico State Senate, in District 37. I'm willing to give up 4 years of my life and be paid nothing. I'll get money, reimbursements, just to go to Santa Fe and back and forth, and that's it. There's no pay. And to me, I think that's the only way a politician should work. Not for the money, work from the heart. Represent the people, listen to the people, understand what they want. You elect me senator, and I'll work for you. You got to do the work now to get me elected. And all the other people that feel the same way you do, but you have to vote. So, okay, so I talked about the independents and the weak-kneed Republicans that we need to get rid of. And there are very good Democrats. I mean, John Arthur Smith, Mary Kay Papin. These are people, reasonable people, Democrats, whom I said, you're welcome to join the Republican Party because your values are traditional and conservative. And conservative is not a bad word. Conservative means fair play. Conservative means we conserve our traditions. And there's nothing wrong with our traditions as far as I'm concerned. And the Constitution is not a living document. It's a solid document. And there is a way to change the Constitution through the amendment process, a legal process. If we don't like what's going on, we can change it. But we have to be engaged as electorate, as the people that vote, to do that. We have to elect the right people, the people that follow our values. Now, I don't have a history in politics, but I do have a history as a Philadelphia policeman. Contact the Philadelphia Police Department. I worked for 13 years as an electronic technician for the U.S. Postal Service. Contact the Postal Service in Mount Holly, New Jersey, Trenton, New Jersey, and Belmar, New Jersey. Find out what my record is. I think I kept my nose clean. So I've never had a complaint in the police department on me. I've never had to shoot anybody. I only had to shoot a dog. I only had to shoot a dog, and the dog was attacking me. I even felt bad about that. But that gun was my last resource. I've had people pin me to the wall and try to take my gun away. I won the fight. I couldn't afford to lose it, or I would have lost my life. And I can't answer for any other policeman out there. I work with some really good cops. And they kept me alive. 19 years old in the black ghetto, I needed help, and I got it. So okay, the fellow I'm running against, Bill Soules, has been the vice chairman and now the chairman of the State Education Committee. He is the top member in the state, the top legislator in education. And New Mexico is either 50th or 49th, depending on who you include in education. We are the worst in the nation. Why is that? Now, Bill might say something like, well, Susana Martinez was in for my first few years. Well, you should be able to work with no matter who's in office. And if you control the Senate in education, and you control the Senate in the state, you can override a governor that's out of line. So I don't see that as an excuse. So you can check out Bill Soules' track record, and you can find out what his platforms are. Well, you can find out what his track record is. Mine, you have to go on what I say and then research my background. So, I don't think that Bill Soules or many, very many, probably most of the Democratic legislators are listening to what the people want. I think I have a pretty good idea of what the people in Doñana County in New Mexico want. They want fairness. They want to be respected and heard. They want to know that their legislators are working for them and not the big money people, like school teachers union in Bill Soules' case, the lawyers unions. These are the people that are putting big amounts of money in his election campaign. Now, I think his first election, he got about $65,000. That's a lot of money. But his second term in office, he had money put in by the unions to the tune of $200,000. Now, and that varies in price. I might not be exact, but it's close. The thing is, I don't even want to attempt to ask people for that kind of money. I want people to know who I am, know that they can trust me, know that they can come to me and talk, and know that I'm going to represent them. Now, as a legislator, what I believe is that I have an oath of office to follow. That oath means that I follow the U.S. Constitution and the New Mexico State Constitution. I have to take that oath, and I will take it seriously. If I feel as though that my constituents want me to do something that is against the Constitution, I have to explain that. If I have my own personal views about abortion, about border security, about any number of things, and my folks disagree with me, I have to talk to you and explain why I feel the way I do. What's the logic behind wanting a secure border, wanting personal protection in the form of gun rights, wanting children to live because I don't believe young women have been told all the complications that can occur with an abortion or what the opportunities are if they don't have one. So these are all things that we have to work out together. Me as a legislator, I have to listen. You have to tell me what you want. We have to negotiate. We have to stay within the law. But without law and order, our country's going to be lost. I don't know how things are going to happen with Seattle, but I know they're out of line now. And we had a governor there, and we had a mayor there that are just blowing this off as nothing. Our governor here, when we had problems with the border, a couple months after she took office, she pulled the National Guard off the border. Why? The National Guard was to back up the border security, the Border Patrol, that didn't have enough manpower. Why would she do that? She also took off, I believe it was 6 other states sent National Guard people to help us protect our southern border, and she told them you're not needed. She got rid of them. So folks, you really have to understand, are these legislators working for us, or are they working for the big money that gets them reelected? You'll have to figure that out for yourself. I want to work for you. I'm willing to give up 4 years of my life to represent you, to represent what you want. My name's Dave Gallus. I'm running for New Mexico State Senate in District 37, which basically runs from University Avenue all the way up to Upham, almost, past Radium Springs, and between I-25 going east up and over the Oregon Mountains. So folks, I'll see you next week, and I don't know what we're going to talk about, but it'll be interesting, guaranteed. See you next week.